This might be the only video you will ever need to watch on a survival mode. I will talk about what is survival mode, what are its symptoms, how we get into survival mode, and most importantly, how we get ourselves out of it. And I will give you very, very practical steps rooted in psychology and neuroscience. If you ever felt exhausted for days, if you ever had a goal that you kept quitting on, no matter how much you tried, if you ever felt overwhelmed by the smallest things, then I'm here to tell you that you're not lazy, you're not incapable, and you're not broken. We all just have a certain amount of energy, and you've been using it all to survive. And that used to be me. I used to be so exhausted that when I finished my 9 to 5 and I was driving home from work, just the thought of me having to cook myself something to eat that evening was so exhausting and overwhelming that I was struggling to cope. So very often I would drive to a shop, I would pick myself a bottle of wine, get myself some chocolate or some sweets, and then order a takeout, even though I really wanted to be healthy, even though I had those fitness goals that I wanted to achieve. But physically, I was so exhausted and so overwhelmed because I was in a survival mode. I just didn't have the energy for anything else. But when I got myself out of survival mode, everything changed. Now I do my 9 to 5, but I finish work and I do content for at least 3 different platforms and 3 different accounts. I've got plenty of hobbies. I travel the world, I dance, I meet with friends, I run, and it doesn't feel exhausting. I don't experience burnout anymore because I know how to regulate my body. I know how to get myself out of survival mode, which frees a lot of energy. So let's start with actually explaining what survival mode is. So your nervous system operates in 2 main modes. The first mode is fight, flight, or freeze, which is controlled by your sympathetic nervous system. And then there's a second mode called rest and digest, which is controlled by your parasympathetic nervous system. In rest and digest mode, this is where your body feels safe, feels creative, feels open. But when you are in a survival mode, this is when you are in your fight, flight, or freeze mode. This is where your amygdala is hyperactive, so it's constantly scanning for threat and danger. This is where your prefrontal cortex, that is responsible for cognitive functioning, shuts down. So, the symptoms of being in a survival mode can look like being constantly on the edge, feeling like you're in danger, even when you're resting or doing nothing, is feeling exhausted, feeling burned out, feeling overwhelmed by the smallest things, but also overthinking and controlling everything. And physically, being in a survival mode can show up as having headaches, having gut issues, having really tense shoulders or muscles, clenching your jaw. It can also show as random pains or fatigue. But also, I think a lot of people don't realize that being in a survival mode can also make you feel emotionally numb. I think a lot of people experience the burnout, the overthinking, the anxiety, but actually, for a lot of people, including myself, being in a survival mode was being emotionally numb and dissociating a lot. It was struggling to be present and in a moment. Being in a survival mode, it's running on an autopilot. So all the days might feel like they blur into one. You might feel like you really struggle to remember what you've done recently. And I remember when I was deeply in my survival mode, I was dissociating a lot. And for me, it looked like whenever I was speaking to someone, I couldn't hear things properly. It just felt like everything was coming from really far away. And when I tried to recall any memories, it was very strange because I couldn't see them through my eyes. I could see myself. I was looking down at myself instead of looking through my eyes at what was happening, which only shows how disconnected I felt from my body. I wasn't in tune with my emotions. I wasn't in tune with my intuition. I was very, very disconnected from my own body. I also remember that I was feeling extremely overwhelmed with the smallest things. When you're in a survival mode, your body is trying to convince you that everything is a life death situation and that there is danger everywhere. So that's why you're getting overwhelmed by everything. Everything feels like a threat. Living in a survival mode has a huge negative impact on our long term health because living in a chronic stress actually weakens your immune system and makes you more prone to illnesses because it increases the inflammation in your body. This is where you would have issues with your gut, with your digestion, because when you're in a fight, flight, or freeze mode, your body deprioritizes digestion and your blood is being diverted. And research shows that people that live in a chronic stress are more prone to illnesses like IBS. And survival mode affects so many other things like your sleep, your blood pressure, your executive functioning, your mood, and list just goes on and on. I strongly, strongly believe that being in a survival mode and being chronically stressed, it's the number one thing that is killing us. And also, I strongly, strongly believe, and this is the whole reason I'm doing this video, I believe that even when you take the right actions and you have the right intentions, but you are in a survival mode, you're not going to be able to achieve what you want to achieve because there are so many factors working against you. When you are in a survival mode, you spend so much of your energy on worrying, on overthinking, on stress that you can't actually hear your intuition to know what would feel meaningful for you. And this is why it's so normal that people that are in a survival mode are struggling to know what their purpose is. They're struggling to find joy in every single day life because their creativity is being blocked, because all the stress, all the worrying is taking all their energy and it's very, very loud. So their intuition and their creativity is blocked. And I know that you probably have some goals that you really want to achieve and you've been trying to achieve them for a long time and you just want to achieve them as soon as possible. But trust me, sometimes we need to slow down to be able to speed up. If you spend more time on this step of getting yourself out of survival mode, of making sure that you're working with your body and not against it, then it will be so much easier to achieve what you want to achieve. You will remove all those factors that are working against you so you can speed up, so you can accelerate, so you can leap into the life that you really want to live. But before I talk to you about the practical steps to get yourself out of survival mode, it's also important to discuss how we get in a survival mode because it's not like most of us just wake up one day in a survival mode. Usually, most of us just slowly slide into it without realizing. But then there's also some people like myself that have been in a survival mode most of their life because of their childhood experiences. When you grow up in a household where you constantly have to scan the room to either stay safe or for your needs to be met, then you learn to pick up on the smallest changes in the environment or people's body language or their behavior. Your nervous system learns that you need to stay alert in order to stay safe or to survive. Maybe you learn that in order to receive love and care, you had to either meet other people's needs or perform. And now you might feel very disconnected from your own feelings. Or maybe you've experienced some deep trauma that no one taught you how to process. So now you walk around with a nervous system that keeps telling you to expect more of it. For those people, coming out of survival mode might be a bit more difficult because if you've never experienced what it feels to have a regulated and calm nervous system, then it will be really difficult to know what you aiming to achieve. And also when you actually achieve that, it might feel almost unsafe and it's going to feel so unfamiliar. And I remember having conversation with my therapist when I finally started getting out of survival mode. And I remember thinking that I went emotionally numb. And I thought I wasn't experiencing anything, but it's because my nervous system was so overwhelmed for years and years, and all my feelings were so heightened. I was walking around most of my life with those extremely big emotions that were overspilling from me all the time. And then I finally learned how to get out of survival mode. And I just felt like I was numb, but actually I was experiencing feelings, but they weren't so overwhelming, which wasn't normal to me. And I had to learn how to experience them differently. So that was definitely challenging. So be patient with yourself. If you've never experienced regulated nervous system, it will feel strange and it will feel difficult and it might even feel unsafe, but stick with it and give yourself grace. But for other people, it might not be this huge trauma that if you experience, it might not be your childhood, but it might be just your adult life. You might be getting overwhelmed by your responsibilities, by financial pressure, maybe by unstable relationships. And very often we get in a survival mode as well because of our very repetitive and very unsatisfying life. So if you're living a life that's not aligned with your values, with your goals, with your drives, but you live in someone else's idea of what your life's supposed to be like, then you might get in a survival mode because everything's going to feel so repetitive. You're going to be running on an autopilot. This can also happen when you're constantly pushing through burnout. It's like your body will slowly start saying to you, if you keep throwing fire at me, I will stay alert and I will stay prepared for it until eventually I will shut down. So now that we know what survival mode can be caused by, we can start getting into those practical steps of how to get out of it. Step number one is register that you are safe. For the longest time, I kept trying to push through, and I thought that if I kept working really hard, if I kept planning more, if I kept fixing myself, then I would achieve my goals and I would be happy. But I kept going round and round in circles because my body wasn't registering that I'm safe. So the first thing you need to do is slow down and notice. Notice when your body tenses up. Notice how often you have your shoulders tense up and over here. When you clench in your jaw, notice your breath, because being aware of those things will not only help you understand what causes your body to feel like you're in danger, but also it will help you to be more in tune with your body and it will help you come back to it, which is so important if you've been dissociating and not allowing yourself to feel your feelings. And journaling and meditations can be really great at this step. One of the easiest way to register that you are safe is to slow down. Stop rushing so much. I know this society made us think that everything is about productivity, and I know we have very, very busy lives, but please slow down. Start doing things a little bit slower, and you will see the difference. Maybe you can brush your teeth slower, maybe you can eat slower, maybe when you're cleaning, instead of going really fast, maybe you can slow down a little bit. All those things will show your body that it is safe, that no bear or lion is chasing you, that your nervous system can calm down. And check with yourself multiple times throughout the day. Is your jaw clenched? Where are your shoulders? Can you drop them a little bit? I do that all the time these days. When I'm working, I've got this tendency of very quickly tensing my shoulders. So every few minutes, I'll check with myself, can I drop my shoulders a little bit? Is there any muscles that I can relax at the moment? Can I breathe a little bit? Because it's also showing me, especially when I'm working, that I can do work and feel safe, because I'm trying to train my brain that work doesn't have to feel exhausting and overwhelming and stressful. I'm trying to teach my body that I can achieve what I want to achieve and do the work and be disciplined without feeling like I'm punishing my body. This step is also where you need to learn how to regulate your nervous system. And this is where somatic exercises come in. They are really, really helpful to release the stuck emotions, to calm your nervous system, to help you regulate your body. So you can do things like breath work or cold plunges or somatic release work, yelling, dancing, moving your body, yoga, whatever that is. There's so many amazing options to choose from, but it's very, very important that you choose something and you find something that feels right for you because it needs to be sustainable. So get really curious and just experiment. And here we're getting to a very, very important point because this is where a lot of people just stop. They regulate their nervous system, they register that they're safe, and they think, okay, I'm fine now. I got rid of those stuck emotions. I got rid of that stress in my body. I should be fine. But then, very, very quickly, they go back to square one. And why is that? It's because somatic exercises help you with the symptoms, but they don't necessarily address the root cause. So, this is why we need to dig deeper and understand that root cause and address that, because otherwise, very, very quickly, that stress is going to return to our body. This is where step number 2 comes in. And step number 2 is let go of what you cannot control. On a deeper level, survival mode is all about broken trust. It's a lack of trust with yourself, trust with others, trust with life, trust with uncertainty. It's like your system doesn't trust that you can handle danger, so it will do anything to protect you from it. This is where you need to let go of overthinking. You need to let go of forcing things. You need to let go of controlling behavior because controlling behavior only gives you a false sense of safety. This is going to feel really uncomfortable, and your mind and body will try to convince you that you are in a physical danger. But this is exactly why you need to develop that deep, deep trust in yourself that no matter what life throws at you, you're gonna be okay. And trust me, this is going to change your life. Knowing that no matter where you are, that no matter what the circumstances, that you're always going to be okay. If plans change, you are going to be okay. It's having that deep, deep trust in yourself that will help you once and for all get out of survival mode. Okay, step number 3 is rewire your subconscious beliefs. This is where we start to address the root cause of you being in a survival mode because your subconscious mind runs 95% of your daily actions. This is where all your beliefs, your fears, and your emotional patterns live. So, if your subconscious mind is programmed to expect rejection, chaos, and danger, then it will keep pulling you back into it and into survival mode, even when everything is fine. And behind all of your actions are beliefs. And it might be that you haven't even been aware of them. It might be that you've been operating from a belief that you are not enough or that there's not enough money or resources. And it's been affecting all your actions. So, this is why exactly you need to become aware of those beliefs and then you have to shift them. And you need to take it even step further. You need to actually not only shift your beliefs, but also your identity. Because it's your old identity that kept you stuck in a survival mode. You need to fully accept that you need to let go of that version of yourself because she or he cannot go where you want to go. And this can feel really difficult, and you can feel like you're grieving and you can feel a lot of resistance, but you need to let that version of you go. This is exactly where you need to define who that new self is that is no longer in a survival mode. Think about their emotions, think about their characteristics, think about their standards and habits. You need to really connect with that new self. And whenever you're making a decision, whenever you need to take an action, try to think, what would that new self do? Try to look at the life through a filter of that new self. At this stage, affirmations, visualizations, meditation, hypnotherapy, EFT tapping. These are all amazing and great tools that you can use at this stage to really replace the fear-based beliefs with ones that are rooted in trust. This will rewire your subconscious and change the story that you've been repeating all your life and that been affecting everything. And the subject of rewiring your subconscious beliefs is something that I'm extremely passionate about. So if you want a more in-depth video about that, then comment rewire and I will create a video on that. And now it's time for step number 4, which is create the opposite experiences, because your body learns through experience and not just thought. And you can think of it like a gentle exposure therapy where you give in your nervous system small, consistent examples that will disprove your previous belief. And the goal isn't to convince your body, but to actually show it with actions that things are very different this time. Because you can repeat in your head thousands of times that rest is safe, but if you don't actually show it to your body and prove it, then your body will have a very difficult time to believe you, especially if there is a broken trust. Because you need to work on your relationship with yourself exactly the same way that you would work on a relationship with a friend or with a partner or with a family member. So if you broken your promises previously, if you haven't looked after yourself the way your body deserves, then your body won't trust you so easily. So keep gathering the evidence that the new belief is true and start small. The smaller the better, because the small is going to be easy and then you're going to be able to gather more of those evidence and then you'll keep a momentum. So you can start with something small. If you have a belief that it's not safe for you to rest, then maybe set an alarm for 5 minutes. Try not to do anything for 5 minutes and then sit with the feeling that you are safe and you're okay, and show to your body that it's fine to rest. And then over time, you can increase that to 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour, and also try to look for any examples of that belief in your environment. Look for any people in your life that are good at resting and they feel safe when they're resting, just so you can really reinforce that belief. Okay, and we're now on step number 5, which is the last step, and it's do not forget about community and connection. Healing doesn't happen in isolation. We are wired for connection, and this is natural and normal and biological. And it's normal that we all want to feel seen and heard and supported and safe when we're with others. And our bodies release oxytocin, which is the hormone of safety and love and trust. So, this is how we co regulate. So, your nervous system syncs with other person's calm. And this is so extremely important, especially now because we live in a society that tries to convince us that we should be completely self sufficient, extremely independent. But the truth is that we are social animals. We do need that contact and connection. And don't get me wrong, yes, it's important to meet your own needs, but it's important to have that connection and rely on your community when needed. So surround yourself with people and communities and spaces that make you feel grounded, that inspire you, that propel you forward. Notice how your body feel around certain people. Do you feel calm and relaxed, or do you feel really, really stressed? Because sometimes your nervous system isn't the problem, your environment is. Because it would be natural and normal for you to be in your fight, flight, or freeze mode if you living with an abusive partner, if you in a job that completely mistreated you. So it's not about getting out of survival mode, but actually being in an environment that doesn't put you in a survival mode all the time. So make sure you choose spaces that uplift you, that support you, that heal you. And that concludes the video. And just to summarize, these are the 5 steps of how to get out of survival mode. So step number 1, you need to register that you are safe. Step number 2, You need to let go of what you cannot control. Step number 3 is rewire your subconscious beliefs. Step number 4 is create the opposite experiences. And step number 5 is don't forget about connection and community. And just to end this video, if you're on this journey and if you're trying to get out of survival mode, please, please, please be kind with yourself. Give yourself grace because it's not easy. And give yourself a big pat on the back because you just taking any steps and you watching this video is already showing how much you care for your body and how much you love yourself and how much you want to do better in life. So well done. I'm really proud of you. And if you lasted till the end of the video, please leave any yellow emoji just to show me that you've watched the video. And I will see you in the next video.